I was lucky enough to be invited to work as a budget consultant on the TV show Dream Home, which is the first season. So on that show, I had to manage the contestants' spending and make sure that they stayed within their budget, which was quite an experience.
You're listening to the She Renovates podcast. You're listening to She Renovates, the podcast for women who want to renovate to create an income and a life they love.
Hello, everyone. So now and again, people ask if we can renovate their properties because they see all the amazing projects we have and wonder if we can do it for them. And up until now, the answer has been unfortunately not. But today, that's all going to change. We have several competent renovators who have spent money on education and years on honing their craft. And Lucy Scott is one of them. Lucy's a Wonder Woman renovator who has established her renovation consultancy in Melbourne, helps clients bring their renovations to life. So I've asked Lucy to come onto the podcast today to really, I guess, from 2 points of view. One, to really share the journey for someone that's interested in going down this path, and the other to, I guess, to demonstrate the value that she brings to a client. So we've got two objectives. So welcome, Lucy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Always fun to be on the podcast.
Yes, and we love having you. We love having real stories from real women. And I know we're covering some old ground, but I really love you just to touch on the milestones in your renovation journey to this point.
Yep, absolutely. So I started my reno journey on my PPOR, my first house. That was at a time when there was a lot of competition for renovated properties ready to go, and we just couldn't compete in that market. So we had to find something that was unrenovated that we could add value to ourselves, just so there was less competition. We kept losing at auctions. So
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it just became a no-brainer at that point that we had to do that. And that's when I fell in love with renovating. So that house I renovated over a 5-year period. In the meantime, during that period, I purchased a beach house, which I also renovated. And then because I had no money left, I sold my house and renovated other properties until I came back to buying my PPOR, which is where I'm at now.
Awesome. And you've done quite a few projects. Tell us about what you've been doing recently.
I was lucky enough to be invited to work as a budget consultant on the TV show Dream Home, which is the first season, which will be aired probably in a couple of weeks. So still waiting for the start date. So on that show, I had to manage the contestants' spending and make sure that they stayed within their budget, which was quite an experience.
Isn't that interesting that they bring in the real renovators to manage the budget?
It was so beneficial, actually, because when you're dealing with also the builders and the trades on the show, and they're using the technical terminology for a lot of the spending, it's great because you can understand what they're talking about. And the other great benefit for me on that show was I got to see what a lot of things actually cost, which helped me understand the costing and the pricing for things, which is one of my biggest obstacles as a renovator, is not knowing or being able to anticipate what the cost is going to be for things, or what reality is. So working on the show really helped me be able to anticipate what things are going to cost for my own home and that part of the renovation. So it was fantastic. And I got to look at Dr. Chris Brown. And that was another major benefit.
That's awesome. And did you get your selfie with him?
I totally did. And I'm going to Instagram the hell out of that selfie.
Go you.
Yes. No, he's so lovely though. He's such a lovely guy, really down to earth. So it was nice to kind of see that the person on TV is actually the way he presented in real life. You could tell. So no, lovely.
Authentic.
And I got to work with Lana from Three Birds.
Yeah.
So that was really cool as well. And again, she's lovely. So
awesome.
It was a fantastic experience. So thanks for letting me share that.
No worries. No worries. So I think it's really interesting. Well, I think it's worth pointing out. I personally was really glad when you bought a PPOR in Surrey Hills in Melbourne, because like I get the value of selling your home and, for lots of reasons, but it's, I believe that your home is your biggest opportunity for growth, and to be out of it too long can be quite, dangerous in some ways, because if the market marches on, and so I'm thrilled that you're into that gorgeous home, and I saw it recently, which I absolutely loved, because, a quality home in a blue ribbon suburb, you cannot go wrong with it, provided you don't overcapitalise, which...
Exactly. It can be tricky to overcapitalise in this area, but, it's always... But having said that, you were very uncomfortable with me not having a PPOR, but the wonderful thing that happened was it was on your advice to sell the house that we actually did. And we sold at a time where we got top dollar for the house. But being able to hold off for that year in between buying, I call this house Peggy. So if you hear me Peggy, that's what it is. That year between selling my PPOR and buying Peggy, the market dropped right at the time when I bought Peggy. So I sold at the peak and I bought at the start of the low, and that has been a major benefit for us.
Well, that's awesome. So congratulations.
Yeah. We've got to celebrate the wins.
Yeah, absolutely do. Yeah. So why have you decided to start a consultancy?
Yeah, so it was interesting. So moving here to Surrey Hills, I have lots of neighbours who are renovating, and they got word of me being a renovator, and I was inundated with texts and calls and questions about what to do for their renovations, and it started taking up a bit of time. And I obviously no problem helping neighbours or anything, love it. But then I started thinking, I could make money off this. I could make a career out of this.
Absolutely.
Because there is a demand for people who want to renovate. They find it very overwhelming. And I was once that person, so I know how it feels. And they just need someone to hold their hand. And that's when I just thought, how can I make this work where I can help people do this? And I'm following a passion of mine as well. And it keeps my love of renovating alive.
That's awesome. And you have, you've invested a lot in developing your skills. It's great that you are able to use them in your career.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've learned so much over the years, because I've been with you since 2017.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time.
I know, it is a long time. And so I need to be able to use that knowledge and share it with other people, because what I've realized is the specific skill set that we have within this community is not widely available, and it's not largely known. So I think what we need to do is share that information with other people and help them to build their dream home.
Absolutely. And so, which is what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So what has been your biggest, I guess, challenge from to making this next step? What has got in the way, or what have you had to get over?
Putting myself out there. That's one of the biggest challenges. Now, which question are we up to?
Oh, I'm going a bit rogue. Sorry.
Going a bit rogue. Yeah, it is. Look, putting yourself out there can be challenging. But what you often find is once you do it a couple of times and you get, it might take 5 times before you get a response But once you
Yeah.
get that response, it just means that you start to build that confidence and you can start to get some results and see some traction. And it's just seeing that traction that really gets you elevated to that next level, and you keep going, and eventually you get somewhere.
Absolutely. And I think, have you had your delivery yet?
No.
Still in the letterbox? Okay. Some have.
They're in delivery. Yep.
Yes. Now I can't give it away now. So, okay. But the thing about putting yourself out there is it takes a while for it to become easier. Often it's not an immediate thing, and it really takes guts to keep doing that time and time again when you're feeling, a little bit sort of uncertain.
And I think also as women, we struggle a lot more with putting ourselves out there and the fear of rejection as well.
Yeah, I agree. And selling, like you have to sell yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, good on you for.
But now the benefit is I've got the portfolio to back me up.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Which have you taken? So with the portfolio, I'm assuming you mean you've got that on your website?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Got to have the visuals. So being able to showcase your work creates a lot of confidence.
I completely agree. Completely agree. Yeah.
And I'm finding that because I've bought and sold quite a few properties, I've built relationships with a lot of local agents. And those agents can see the before and after of what's being done, the transformation within the house, and also the price that I purchase it for versus the price that you sell it for. They can see that, and therefore they start to have confidence in you and build those relationships. So I even have agents bringing me properties.
Amazing.
Which is great. I wish I could move on them, but
Well, there might be the perfect joint venture partner out there for you. You never know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the thing about agents. Like there's renovating and renovating. And when you go to an agent and say, I'm going to renovate this, they really don't know what sort of renovation you're going to be doing. And they need to see the quality of your work to have confidence in it. So once you get to that point where you've got some agents that have appreciate what you do, then it does become a lot easier for them to spread the word about your work.
Exactly. And I've noticed that a lot of agents put that caveat in there. So when you approach them and you ask them, what do you think the resale price would be if I did X, they'll say, well, it depends on the quality of the renovation.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of agents have seen some pretty shocking renovations.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
And they don't realize what they're capable of.
Exactly. So you've got to, the proof's in the pudding, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. 100%. So if you can show them what your work has been in the past, maybe they can give you a realistic resale price, which helps with your due diligence. And the due diligence of the property is key for a successful renovation and flip.
So how will you manage that are you going to use the same process with your clients?
With my clients, it'll be a little different because I'm anticipating working on people's homes or their investment properties. So they're projects that have already been purchased.
Yeah.
In which case, what it will be is a way to understand what their goal is within that property. Are they looking for capital growth? Are they looking for something like their dream home to generate? Or is it just something that they want to make more comfortable for the period of time that they're going to be there? So it really depends on the scope of works as to what you're going to do with the property. And everybody's different and has a different idea of what they want to achieve.
I want to give you some feedback here. I would suggest to you that every project you do, you get a valuation on it before you start, or an appraisal, so that you can maintain metrics on your work, because that's important for your portfolio. It's important to have a track record of always adding value, and more than it costs, significantly more than it costs. So, yeah. So
I think that's a good idea, definitely.
Sorry. Did you want to say something else?
No, I think that's fine. That's a great idea. But I think what I do want to talk about is how a renovation consultant differs to these companies that do, the one-stop shop. They advertise themselves as the one-stop shops.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't have that. So do you want to explain that?
Okay. So a lot of people, when they're looking to renovate either a bathroom or their homes or whatever they're hoping to change within their house, will hire a builder who will manage the project and do everything for them. But what they don't realize is that builder isn't a designer, isn't looking at the best interests of the owner in that situation, cannot give advice on the floor plan, or they might be able to, but they're not really looking at what's going to add the most value to the house. The way it differs with renovation consultants is we're looking at what the main objective is for the client, and we are going to offer suggestions and advice on how to maximize either the existing floor plan, maybe some walls need to come down to open it up a little bit, but then we can also investigate with the minimum price how we can achieve that goal and work together. And we can even do all the design for them. It would just make it so much easier. So it takes that stress on choosing your fittings, everything else out of the equation, because as a renovation consultant, we have all that knowledge and we can help them achieve that in a much better way at a much lower cost.
Absolutely. And I guess it's really important to note that at the moment, finding a builder for anything is like very challenging. They all seem to be booked up to the hilt, and not all jobs need a builder to be managing the lot. So by you having a tried and tested team, it sort of really alleviates that stress as well.
Exactly. And also to note that a builder's rate may be $100 an hour, whereas they're doing work that a handyman can do at $60 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can significantly reduce your labor costs, and the labor costs are going to be where the majority of the cost of the renovation come into play.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you don't need to pay that $100 an hour and you can get that job done for $60, it's a no-brainer, right?
Absolutely.
But having said that, everyday regular people wouldn't know this.
No. So you're bringing your, experience from all the renovations you've done in the past. And the other thing around selections, and I think that's a really good point, making the decisions about what fixtures and fittings, it's really common for people doing renovations to get that decision fatigue. And once you've done a few projects, it starts to become more automatic. So for you, you're not going to have the same fatigue that they do. So you're going to be better placed to support them through those choices, which really make the project.
Yes, because what a lot of people do is they don't look at the whole house and the style of the whole house. They just choose what they like for particular rooms. And there's no continuity between the house and the features that they use in like a bathroom or a kitchen or a laundry. And then you kind of lose the wow factor in the house. So it's really important to marry everything together. Doesn't have to be the same, but just have some way to connect these spaces so that it works. And that's going to add value to your house.
Absolutely. I think the word is cohesion.
Cohesion. There you go.
Yeah. Beautiful. I know David always has this saying, we were talking about the different metals you can get in tapware. And he said to me that, I think we were looking at copper, and he said, I know you've got copper in your ensuite. He said to me, Mum, that's a gateway drug. Once you put it in there, you've got to do all your hardware and...
It is true because I'm looking at my kitchen now because I'm planning the extension. I'm looking at the kitchen now going, I might need to use copper. But the problem with copper is not everybody stocks it. So you're stuck with one supplier for the copper tapware. Yes, so that can be problematic, but it does look beautiful and I love it.
Is there a particular project that you're really proud of, and why that's so?
Yeah, definitely. So when I sold my house, I invested the money in a micro development strategy, which was in the Macedon Ranges in a town called Kyneton. And that house was absolutely disgusting. It was a hoarder house, and cigarette stains, nicotine stains. Oh my gosh, it was just disgusting, and it stank. And there was writing on the wall. Anyway, putrid. You've seen it. It's on the
Yeah.
website. Anyway.
I've seen it and it looks beautiful though.
Oh, yeah. So when we got stuck into it and being able to transform that house and convert it back to something that you could be absolutely proud to live in has been a huge accomplishment for me. So I've spent a lot of time in Kyneton renovating that property and met a number of people in the area who have told me just how disgusting that house was and how proud they are and happy they are that it's been, well, revived.
Yeah.
And become something that is a beautiful house to look at on the street.
Amazing. And
yeah,
that's definitely on the market.
On the market at the moment, yeah.
So we should include a link for anyone who wants to go and snap it up.
Yeah, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And
with lots of opportunity. Yeah. So renovating can be quite daunting. What advice would you give to someone that's feeling overwhelmed about starting their project?
Okay, let me just check what I've got here. Yeah. All right. So the main thing is to be organized and plan well. So you need to find good trades and book them in months in advance. So if you're going to do a bathroom renovation, I would plan for it about 3 months in advance, meet all your trades, line them up and schedule it so that you can have that timeline for, let's say, 3 weeks and get it done in the shortest period of time that you can. So good trades, book them in advance. And I often recommend just speaking to people and hearing if they have advice on who to use, who they've had good experiences with. But it's always really good to get 3 quotes because there can often be a massive discrepancy between quotes. Line everything up, schedule it, timeline it well. Then whilst you've got that scheduled, get all of your items ready so that they're on site, because sometimes you'll choose a tile or a tap or some fixture that may have a delay. So you want to prepare for that and have everything ready to go. And I also suggest opening up the boxes and looking at the items as well, because I've had an experience where I've purchased the tiles, then had the tiler on site to do checkered tiles, but one of the tile sets was 5 mil bigger than the other one. So we couldn't do check. And it was a nightmare. So anyway, check that the quality control on your items and make sure everything is there and available. Then go to your trades that you've selected, tell them what you've purchased, and make sure that you've got everything there on the list that they will need on the day so that there's no delays in something that's missing, because that is also a nightmare.
Perfect, Lucy.
Yeah.
You've learnt well.
Learn well from the master.
Sustainability is on a lot of people's minds. How do you make your projects more sustainable?
I love Facebook Marketplace. So, and the reason I love that is you can get a lot of people's leftover materials for your projects. So things like splashbacks in kitchens, and you can use really fancy tiles because you don't need many tiles, for example. So people will often have like 3 square meters left over from their projects, and they're selling them at a fraction of the price. So you can purchase those and use really fancy tiles that might cost $100 a square meter, get them for $25. So that's one way. Another way is I like to upcycle old buffets for island benches, for kitchens, get them for $100, give them a paint, and there you go. You got your island bench, and that saves thousands of dollars. Also, if you can use offcuts, stone offcuts for island benches and then match it up for other pieces, that's another thing that I've done. Secondhand kitchens on Marketplace are a great idea if you can make it work within the space. You've got to be very careful with your dimensions. And also, even windows, you can get great windows on Marketplace that, for a fraction of the price. So there's so many ways that you can upcycle and be sustainable, but also keep the integrity of the house. So, for example, if you're in a multi-million-dollar house, you don't want to use an upcycled buffet as a kitchen island bench, for example.
Well, you might if it suits the style, but I get what you mean.
Yeah. However, windows and other items, aircon units and that sort of thing, it's not going to impact the integrity of the house.
Yeah. And I know that it's interesting because often, particularly trades, like if they walk into a house that's obviously a high value, we'll assume that you're going to just be quite like wasteful in a way, and often really push back on reusing materials and so on. I know we find that a bit. But also the other things are things like, if you get the opportunity to switch gas to electricity and so on, and insulating the home well to, keep that thermal mass. Yes.
Well, we all have to be mindful of that, don't we?
We do. And as renovators, we have the opportunity to really make a difference.
Yep, 100%.
So mistakes can be great learning opportunities. Can you share a mistake you made and what you learnt from it?
Sure, yep. So I overcapitalized on my first project, which was my PPOR. I had the mindset that we were going to be there for a lot longer than what we were. So really, I wasn't particularly fussy about my expense, and I went higher end and overcapitalized, obviously. But in the end, when I sold it, even though I made a profit on it, the profit margin could have been a lot higher if I'd had a renovator's mindset.
Yeah.
So as a result, now working on my PPOR on Peggy, I have a renovator's mindset. So even though I plan on being here for a very long period of time, I'm doing every element of this project with trying to maximize the profit potential.
Yeah.
So I don't make that again.
No, I think, and I think particularly at your age, that is really, well, at any age, but often like when you get to my age, you really do know that you're probably not going to be leaving the home and probably never going to be selling it. And not like I never go mad with spending, but I'll spend more on something here because I know we're sort of at the end of the line in terms of forever homes. But I think at your stage, the money that you save, you can contribute to your future. I'm in my future, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, and also this is my retirement money, this house.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is my retirement. However, I do plan if the kids are going to stay here for a long period of time, they can just pay rent, and that's my retirement.
Oh, you're hilarious.
Yeah.
I like to see that happen.
Airbnb their bedrooms.
Well, I know you do that.
I do that, yes.
So for those who are inspired by your journey and wanting to follow in your footsteps, what first steps would you recommend they take towards a career in renovating?
I'm always going to say renovate your own home because I love that strategy. It's probably my favorite strategy. And the reason is because it's a great way to get a feel for the reality of renovating. So, and the financial pressure is reduced because you don't have the extra holding cost that comes with renovating another
Yeah.
property. The risk is minimal, there's no tax, and there's great profit potential. So start with your own home.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. So, Lucy, we really wish you well on your journey into this next stage in your renovating journey. How can potential clients and collaborators get in touch with you or learn more about your work and your services?
Yeah, sure. No, so I've got a website which is lucyscott.com.au. And
Really?
also, yeah, James told me to change it.
Well, I agree with him, but I'm surprised.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
well done.
It's Lucy Scott, and Scott It Made is my team. So it's Lucy Scott with Scott It Made. And also on Instagram. So on Instagram, you can see my handle as Scott_it_made.
Beautiful. And we will include those, the handle and your website in the show notes. And yeah, so if you are in Melbourne and you want help with your renovation, Lucy is your girl.
Awesome. Cannot wait.
Thank you. Okay. Was that okay?
Yep. Awesome. That'd be great.
Take care.
This is the She Renovates podcast. To discover how to harness the power of renovating, check out theschoolofrenovating.com.